All right, let's just dive right into what is honestly a massive medical mystery. Imagine if the very pills we're taking to save our memories were actually the exact things destroying them? Crazy, right? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a huge wave of recent medical research that completely, and I mean literally, flips the script on cognitive health. For years, we've been sold this idea that keeping our mental sharpness as we age requires this daily cocktail of vitamins, over-the-counter sleep aids, and these flashy memory-boosting supplements. But what if the things you're swallowing to clear up your brain fog are exactly what's causing it? Today, we're going to look at the hard data, dig through the hidden toxins lurking right in our medicine cabinets, and uncover the real, evidence-based pillars of long-term cognitive health.
So, we're kicking things off with a pretty shocking paradox involving a supplement that is just wildly popular. I'm talking specifically about omega-3s. This is super common, especially among senior Pakistanis, where imported vitamins and family-recommended supplements are often treated as the ultimate gold standard for good health. For decades, fish oil has been the absolute darling of the supplement aisle. But researchers recently decided to take a hard look at the long-term data, and honestly, what they found is truly unsettling.
Okay, so a recent study by the Army Medical University tracked over 800 older adults for up to 5 years, using data from the Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative. They made sure to balance everything out: age, sex, baseline cognitive conditions, the whole shebang. And the results? No way around it. Those taking omega-3s actually experienced a measurable acceleration in cognitive decline compared to people who didn't take them. And this was especially pronounced in folks carrying the ApoE epsilon 4 gene. You can think of that gene kind of like a genetic barcode that naturally makes someone more vulnerable to Alzheimer's. Across all standard tests for memory, attention, and language, the omega-3 users showed a consistently steeper drop-off over time.
Now here's where the plot thickens. It's all about the dose. Researchers found that while low natural doses are totally fine and can even be helpful, anything over 1,500 milligrams a day, that crosses a dangerous threshold and can actually harm the brain. What's incredibly fascinating is that this decline wasn't driven by your classic Alzheimer's markers, like amyloid plaques. Instead, using these highly advanced brain scans, researchers saw that these massive doses were essentially starving vulnerable brain regions of glucose, which is basically their primary fuel. And that starvation adversely affects the actual physical connections between brain cells.
But, hey, let's pivot for a second and actually look inside your medicine cabinet, because this builds into an even bigger threat involving everyday over-the-counter remedies. It's not just the unverified supplements we need to be careful with. It's the normal pills we pop without a second thought. Millions of us just assume that because a drug is sold over-the-counter, it's 100% safe to take forever. But geriatricians and neurologists are raising some massive red flags about the hidden dangers linked to these everyday medications.
Just look at some of these categories. We're talking about absolute household staples globally. Drugs you probably take for acid reflux, anxiety, or, and this is a big one, allergies and sleep. I'm talking brand names like Benadryl, Xanax, and Prilosec. These contain active ingredients like diphenhydramine or chlorpheniramine. When you use these drugs, and especially if you're mixing them together, you are unknowingly introducing a profound chemical risk to your brain's very delicate ecosystem. And for seniors, whose cognitive health is already more vulnerable, this can be absolutely disastrous.
So why is this happening? Well, it all comes down to the underlying biology. Let's focus on anticholinergics for a second. There is a vital neurotransmitter in your brain called acetylcholine. Think of it as your brain's literal save button. It's the chemical messenger required to encode new memories and learn things. Now, anticholinergic drugs, by their very definition, actively block this neurotransmitter. Here's the catch. Seniors naturally produce less acetylcholine as they age anyway. So when an older adult takes a pain or sleep aid containing diphenhydramine, which is a really strong anticholinergic, they are completely blocking whatever little chemical messengers they have left. The result? Severe confusion, dizziness, and essentially a total inability to form new memories.
Basically, you're making a really dangerous trade-off here. Sure, that over-the-counter sleep aid is going to make you drowsy. It'll definitely clear up your sniffles. But while you're getting that temporary relief, the drug is actively suppressing the exact chemical pathways your brain relies on to consolidate memories. It's literally a localized chemical impairment of your cognitive function. And yeah, a young, healthy brain might bounce back from using it once in a while. But an aging brain, it is far, far more vulnerable to these kinds of disruptions. To really put this into perspective, studies show that using these specific anticholinergic medications for over 3 years shoots your risk of developing dementia up by a staggering 54%. Let that sink in for a second. 54%, all just from trying to get a good night's sleep or fighting off seasonal allergies over the long haul. This is exactly why medical experts from places like the Mayo Clinic are practically begging patients to take a hard look at their medicine cabinets and have a real talk with their doctors about long-term use.
Now, you might be thinking, Okay, I'll just switch from pharmacy brands to those natural smart drugs instead. Well, actually, scratch that. Our investigation gets even darker here. The market for nootropics, those pills promising to boost your focus, speed up learning, and banish brain fog, has absolutely exploded. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry now. But because dietary supplements aren't regulated with the same strict rules as prescription drugs, what's actually inside those bottles is a massive and sometimes deadly gamble.
A massive European and Australian market surveillance study recently pulled back the curtain on this industry. They tested over 150 different samples labeled as nootropics, and what they found, it is basically the Wild West out there. They exposed a disturbing system where substandard, falsified, and downright illegal dietary supplements are slipping right into the hands of unsuspecting people who genuinely think they're just buying a harmless brain vitamin.
Get this. Many of these over-the-counter brain supplements are actually illegally spiked. We're talking unapproved Russian prescription drugs like Finabut and Nupept, which are heavily restricted in a lot of countries because they can literally cause respiratory depression, comas, or even fatalities. Worse still, the researchers found entirely untested research chemicals inside these pills. They are literally testing unapproved lab chemicals on the public. And for a senior taking these to clear up a little brain fog, it's a recipe for disaster. Because an older adult's body clears out toxins much more slowly, these experimental compounds just build up, potentially triggering extreme confusion or much worse.
All of this exposure to unapproved chemicals and hidden household toxins directly contributes to something researchers call leaky brain syndrome. You see, your blood-brain barrier is supposed to be this impenetrable fortress, keeping harmful stuff in your bloodstream away from delicate brain tissue. But as we age, that barrier naturally weakens. For seniors, the cumulative exposure to these synthetic toxins, plus a poor diet and these falsified supplements, it easily breaks down that aging fortress. Once it gets porous, inflammatory molecules just slip right on through, making neuroinflammation worse and actually causing the exact mental fatigue you're desperately trying to cure.
So, if high-dose omega-3s are a paradox, and Tylenol PM is blocking your memory, and the smart drug market is basically a chemical minefield, what are we supposed to do? What actually works? Well, doctors and geriatrics experts are incredibly clear on this. We need to abandon the myth of the magic pill. Protecting your memory isn't about finding a quick fix. It's about adopting proven, lifestyle-driven alternatives that genuinely heal the brain and support its natural ability to detoxify itself.
Honestly, it all comes down to actionable, evidence-based habits. Zero magic pills required. The science consistently points us toward things like the MIND diet, packing your plate with green leafy veggies, whole grains, beans, and fish, which actually actively reduces Alzheimer's pathology in the brain. And instead of reaching for those risky sleep meds, doctors highly recommend cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It's completely non-pharmacological, meaning zero toxic side effects. Combine that with regular physical exercise, staying super well hydrated, and keeping your mind challenged. These habits naturally balance your brain chemistry and safely reduce inflammation.
And here's a stat that I absolutely love. Just maintaining frequent social activity alone has been shown to cut your risk of dementia by 38%. It also drops your risk of mild cognitive impairment by 21%. Research shows the least socially active older adults develop dementia 5 full years earlier than those who stay socially engaged. Hanging out with people literally strengthens your neural circuits and makes them physically resistant to brain damage. A good conversation, a community club, or a weekly dinner with family, that outperforms absolutely any falsified supplement you're going to find on the internet, hands down. So now that you know the real story about these hidden cognitive killers, from the high-dose fish oil paradox to memory-blocking allergy meds and spiked smart drugs, it is time to take back control of your brain's future before it's too late. True cognitive resilience isn't something you buy in a plastic bottle. It's built every single day through how we eat, how we sleep, and how we connect with the people around us. So take a hard look at your own routine today. What are you going to throw out of your medicine cabinet tonight? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and seriously, I highly encourage you, and especially the older adults in your family, to sit down with your doctor and talk about exactly what you're taking. Stay safe out there.